Hi, it's Marnie, and I'm back now with Katy Kauffman, the coordinator of the Heart Renovation, a construction guide to godly character. And this is not your typical book in that it doesn't have one or two authors. It has, oh my goodness, let me count the numbers 30 authors. It's 12 weeks long with daily sections for you to do about 10 to 15 minutes worth of reading and questions. So at the end of every chapter, there's a prayer and some questions for conversation as well as for your own study at home. And then the authors take turns throughout. Sometimes, Katy, sometimes the authors are back to back. Sometimes they don't show up for a long time after their first one. How did you actually go about putting this together? Did you assign people a topic category, or how did you put it together?
Well, I have an incredible group of Bible study writers. And so we had a call for submissions, and those that were interested, we gave them a list of topics. Okay. So they got to volunteer their topics, and they wrote articles, and it was quite a project. We had a lot of authors submit, and 30 authors are in the book. And so you might see one author in the first section and then another one toward the end. So they volunteered articles and wrote about things from the heart. They shared personal stories. It was really cool to see how it came together.
It is. It flows really nicely. It's Heart Renovation is the name of the book, and it starts with several stories about renovation projects, which if you've ever been through one, you really get it. How much upheaval this is and how shocking it is, what's behind the walls and what's under the floors and all that kind of stuff. And it was such a great way to start this heart renovation project. Yes. With just these examples. Yeah. Don't be surprised by what you find when you start digging deeper.
Yeah. One of our ladies, her husband's a contractor, and she wrote in the first section of the book, and some of them, Dawn Owens had done rental projects on buildings that she worked in, and Jeannie Waters and her husband renovated their kitchen. So they had personal experience with house renovation, and we used that to talk about how God renovates our hearts to become more like his own.
Yeah. So I want to jump us right over to page 25, a story or a section called Security Blanket. And this one is by Rosemarie Fitzsimmons, and she starts talking about playing computer cards, some kind of a computer game. And she kind of goes through how it's affecting. I love how it's presented. It kind of just sucked me into it. And I don't play games on the computer, so it wasn't like a direct hit for me. And yet I totally translated it into my area. You know what I mean? Yes. We all have these things that we're like, I think it's okay to just do one more, or just this one more. And it gets to be this crazy, insidious habit where we don't recognize what's going on. But a lot of times people around us really get it. They really see it.
Yeah, it can affect our relationships with our family, our friends. She is a great short story writer. So she's written a short story illustrating this mom who has a little toddler, and the little girl doesn't want to give up her security blanket. But for the mom, her security blanket ends up being the solitaire game on the computer. So then she asks, okay, what are we depending on too much to either fill a need or meet a desire? And we need to depend on God to handle those things so that habits don't control us, but we regulate them. So it's a great article.
Right. And at the end of every chapter, there are some questions, like in this particular chapter and in other chapters as well. There's some extra questions, some discussion questions. Yes. That are just like, I liked these so much. Consider the following and fill in the blanks. I'd be a lot happier if I just had more blank. I can stop blank, but it's fun and it doesn't hurt anybody. So why should I? I'd like to pursue God's will for me, but blank takes up so much of my time. It just kind of stop and think about how this applies to you. And then it goes on and there's a prayer. And then the questions at the end of this particular chapter are, is there an activity or dependence in your life that might be controlling you rather than the other way around? What would you be free to do without this controlling factor in your life? What's the worst thing that would happen if you gave it up? and what is the best thing that could happen. And then there's some scriptures to read. So all of these are set up in such a nice way like that, where you can go through. Another one I really liked, we don't have time to go into it right now, but My Wallet, God's Money by Laura W. Watts. There are so many in here. And this is all over the board, Katy. It's not like you're just going to have, it's not like you're just going to do the home reno. That's just the bathroom. You're going into every room and closet in this book.
Every part of our hearts, yes.
That's right. That's right. Well, let's go over to page 173. This one is a story, Pray Without Ceasing. And this, why don't you go ahead and tell this? Do you remember this story about the mom with the sensitive child?
Yeah. This writer is Julie Lavender, and she's sharing a story about her son, Jeremy, when he was in preschool, that he had a sensitive heart. So she tried to shield him from certain issues in life. But when they were in San Diego, they saw a homeless man. And so she was trying to protect his heart and his feelings, but he wanted to help the man. And so she realized that building compassion within her kids, because this section is how to raise our kids to have godly character. She can build a compassion spirit in her children by teaching them to pray without ceasing. So everywhere they went, she would start a prayer in the car, as they traveled places. And so she even talks about, she thinks she sees an ambulance and she prayed for them, but it was actually the mail carrier. So she was praying for the mail carrier, and her child said, well, maybe they need prayer too. So she's written a great article to help our kids be sensitive and compassionate and to pray for other people.
Yeah, I love it. And it's really it's just a good deep dive into how do you pray without ceasing? How does that actually look in your life? How do you do it every single day, all day long? Just like breathing, I compare it to a dolphin, like our breath is a little different because we breathe totally automatically. Unless you're an asthmatic, your breathing is happening, pretty without your thinking about it. But the dolphins, they go underwater for like up to 5 minutes and then they come up for air. So I like to think of our prayer life like the dolphins. They breathe without ceasing, but yet they're not like going up for air every second like we are with our breath. And so that's what happens I love that chapter. Really clearly explains how we can go from just tapping into God at very rare times during the day or meal times or whatever, into bringing him into every single situation and letting everything be a trigger. Yeah. Good. I wanted to touch on the soap bubbles for the soul. This one's by you, Katy, and page 303. And maybe just tell us, I like to think of it as the strategy for being continually clean, but go ahead and tell us a little bit about this.
Yeah, this article is in the Beatitudes section of the book. And I was walking along the beach last year and I saw all these soap bubbles. And I thought, where in the world did they come from? But I knew, okay, it's sea foam, but it looked like bubbles. And so I thought, how hard would it be to try to keep an ocean clean, much less our hearts? Because, we live in this fallen world and we're dealing with secular things and temptations and struggles. So how can we keep our hearts continually cleansed before God? And we need his help. So one of the ways I talked about was just as God's word, just as the ocean draws with it the sand and the shells as it's going back and forth across the shore, God's word, when it comes into our hearts and we cooperate with God's work in our lives, it can draw away the gunk. It can draw away the worldliness so that God can build within us his character. So staying in God's word continually and letting it change us, that helps us to be clean. And then more of God and less of me. Each day I choose more God's way and less my own way. More his timing and less my own timing, and his methods and not my own. So more and more, it's like take the next step of obedience. Choose him one more time and one more time and one more time. And that will help us to stay clean.
It's just beautiful. These are so fun. And I think that if you are a lover of short stories, this is your Bible study right here, because it covers the whole gamut of topics and it's done in such an enjoyable way. Typically, we've been reading through having the authors read a section or whatever to get the voice, but because this is 30 different voices, you don't you have to really experience it to get to do it. The very next chapter is called Avoid the Trap Stick. And this one's by Connie Wolford, and it starts at the top saying, avoid the trapstick if you want to be a peacemaker. And she says, well, why don't you describe for us what a trapstick is first?
Yeah. We wanted this Bible study to have a devotional feel. So a lot of the articles start with a story, and she starts with this illustration of a trapstick. And a trapstick is a little trigger within a trap for the animal. When the animal hits, the door comes down. Well, Satan tries to use conflict as a trapstick to get us angry, to get us involved in a fight. And so she's talking about being a peacemaker, and there are ways to avoid, setting off the trigger and getting trapped in a debate or a fight, but instead trying to have peace on the inside, not to be triggered by ego or temper, but to try to also build peace within our relationships. So I love that illustration that she used.
I do too, because sometimes you use the phrase like, they triggered me or flipped my switch or whatever. But the trapstick, you see that as a little mouse trap and this little stick there, and it's like, okay, you know what not to do. Just don't flip.
Don't get caught.
Right. So she goes on and she says, consider these 4 strategies to help you resist the temptation to offend or be offended, and instead to be a peacemaker. Number 1, sow love. And she goes on into a little bit deeper in each of these. But number 2, be a good example. Number 3, remember God is at work in situations. And number 4 is study Jesus. And then in the questions, the first one I just love, besides offense, what are other things that cause rifts between people? There's just a lot of good a lot of good soul searching, as well as, like in this one, number 3 is read 1 Peter 3:8-11 and answer the questions below. Number 4 is in Romans 12:18. So there's either scripture in the story section, in the questions, or in both. And so you're getting a lot of in and around the Bible, the whole Bible, the Old Testament, New Testament, and then you're also getting these really easy to understand stories and applications, which is a super fun thing. I wanted to just go back to the beginning for a second. And weeks 1 and 2 is about repairing the hidden problems of character. Weeks 3 and 4, constructing character that overcomes life issues. Week 5 is blueprints of character and people in the Bible. Week 6 is Christ, the model of godly character. Week 7 and 8, construction zone, helping our children to grow in godly character. Weeks 9 and 10, craftsmen at work, the fruit of the Spirit. Weeks 11 and 12, building in blessing, the Beatitudes. One of the things that I thought was really cool about how you did this book, Katy, was the first couple chapters are about home renovations and about houses that, had potential, but they were in really tough shape. And then at the very end of the book, you bring it all the way full circle and you take us on a tour of a really beautiful house. Tell us about that.
My mom and I were looking for a house for my uncle, and we came across this house that was 110 years old, and my college professor actually owned it. And you could tell that he loved history. He had taken care of this house. And so in the beginning of the book, we have a made-up story about a house that was run down because the owner couldn't take care of it. And then at the end, it's kind of like what's possible when we ask God to be the project manager of our hearts and to take care of every part of our hearts to make us more like Jesus. And then leaving a legacy for those who come behind us. We can invest, as God invests in us, we can invest in other people, friends, family, kids, grandkids, if we're teaching at church or involved in some kind of ministry. And so the good stuff doesn't just stop with us, that we can make a difference in other people's lives. And so that's kind of, how the Beatitudes work and the blessings that God blesses us, and we can turn around and bless other people.
I love it. I love you. If you guys want to learn more about the book, click on the book jacket. That'll take you to the Amazon page where you put it in your cart over there. If you want to learn more about Katy, click on her photo. That takes you over to her website there. Katy, thank you so much for being with us, and thank you for this book.
Thank you, Marnie. I appreciate it.
And we'll be right back with another author at Bible Study Expo.